Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to part 6 of my Doctor Who, the 13th Doctor reflections. Previously on part 0, we did the introduction. Part 1 was Series 11 and Resolution. Part 2, Series 12 and Revolution of the Daleks. Part 3, Series 13, aka Flux. And Eve of the Daleks and Legend of the Sea Devils, the first two of the 2022 specials. And the third and final 2022 special, The Power of the Doctor, was covered in part 4, which also covered the arcs and storylines of the 13th Doctor's era and how the Power of the Doctor tied them up or dealt with them. And now we come to talking about a bonus series for this era of Doctor Who before we get to the conclusion that the 13th Doctor had some involvement with. So no Time Lord Victorious, no Daleks, and we're not doing that Father Christmas mini animated thing. No books, no comics, and no audiobooks. And no audio dramas from Big Finish yet. Because they haven't made them yet, although the Fugitive Doctor and the Sacha Dhawan Spy Master are supposedly getting some later down the line. We'll see. And they probably have either the IP for the 13th Doctor or will be getting it soon. They could use characters and do stories up to the end of the 12th Doctor's era, just a week after Twice Upon a Time aired. But this bonus series will be talking about an audio series, an audio drama series featuring the 13th Doctor, as played by Jodie Whittaker in a couple of episodes, as well as some other characters played by returning actors, but focusing on a new group of characters for this story, and this is the BBC Sound radio drama series Doctor Who Redacted, which released 10 episodes over weekly installments from April to June of this year, plus a bonus little introductory episode just before the first one aired. The first one aired just after, or was released, I should say, after Legend of the Sea Devils is broadcast. And as you may have seen on this channel, I did reactions to the episodes. Sometimes I had to do 2 at a time because I sometimes took 2-week gaps as opposed to just instead of listening to them weekly. Sometimes it was I missed one on its week and then just listened to 2 the next week. On side notes, the overall reflections video was filmed at the same time as my episode 10 reaction, but due to the Wi-Fi situation at the place I was staying on holiday, it took quite a while for the episode 10 video to go up to be released, and it was taking even longer for the reflection ones, so the overall thoughts ones. So that just had to wait till I got back home for it to be properly uploaded. But okay, so Doctor Who Redacted. This is probably the best 13th Doctor series. No joke. No joke. I mean, if I was just going television series, I'm leaning towards Series 11 by a pinch over Series 13. Series 12 is at the bottom. So you Series 12 haters rejoice, okay? And if you're not a Series 12 hater, sorry. And if you're not a Series 12 hater, but it's still your least favourite, also rejoice. But if it's not your least favourite, don't rejoice. Sorry about that. Unless you're a hater. In which case, fuck off. But if I included this series as like the unofficial fourth series of the 13th Doctor, much like how Big Finish's 9th Doctor series are the unofficial 2nd and 3rd series for Christopher Eccleston's 9th Doctor, then yeah, this is my favourite series from the 13th Doctor's era. So what's this series about? Well, the plot of this story is that there's some sort of time and space reality situation thing that the Doctor's been caught in the middle of, and it's affecting people who know her. They're either disappearing or being erased from time, and only a small band of people have noticed this, including Unit, led by Kate Stewart, played by Gemma Redgrave, Ronnie Chandra from the Sarah Jane Avengers, played by Angie Mahindra, and Madame Vastra, not played by Neve McIntosh, unfortunately, even though she's done Big Finish, so I don't know why she's been recast. And Osgood, played by Ingrid Oliver, is also helping out in Unit as well. There's also a couple of other characters from the RTD era who pop up, played by new actors like Oliver Morganson and Penny Carter. They pop up. No love for the Stephen Moffat era, I noticed in these. It's mostly either the current era of Chibnall or RTD era 1, with the occasional classic series references. So I noticed, well, I suppose maybe Osgood's a Moffat era, and okay, I'll take that. So, yeah, but it's mostly RTD era referencing the first one, or tying in with the current era of Chibnall, but even then, not to that amount. So the episodes are Introducing Doctor Who Redacted, SOS, Hysteria, Lost, Angels, Interrogation, Recruits, Requiem, Ghosts, Rescue, and Salvation. And they're all available to listen to on BBC Sound's website and app if you want to go and listen to these stories yourselves. The first one is episode 0, Introducing Doctor Who Redacted, is basically the 13th Doctor's message just kind of played to the audience in full. And clear in this, some of this is also mentioned in the first episode, SOS. It's a decent, just a little taste of what's to come. This episode actually aired a few days before the actual series began, on the same day that Legend of the Sea Devils aired. So it's a little bit early, but it's to get a taste of what this new series was about before the first episode aired after the 2022 Easter special, which was Disappointment of the Sea Devils. Legend of the Sea Devils. But this was not a disappointing series. This was pretty fun. This was interesting and enjoyable. I really enjoyed this series. I should totally review this one at some point, but I'll have to give it another listen. But yeah, SOS was a good start with the series, an interesting opener. It was very much set up, introducing the characters of Abby, Shauna, and Cleo. By the way, Cleo's the main character of this series. I know those three are the main three of the series, but in particular, Cleo. She's the one who gets the most to do. She's the one who gets the most focus on her, especially in these earlier episodes. And yeah, she gets the most stuff to do. And since she's the trans character of the group, that's probably a good thing. Even though I was wanting more stuff from Shauna to come by the time we got midway. I wanted more Shauna focused stuff. Actually, it was before halfway. It was about episode 3-4 time. I thought like 1 was focusing on Cleo, 2 maybe Abby, 3 could it be a Shauna? But I think Cleo got quite a lot more to do in this one. Then Abby, and then, or at least to start with. And then Shauna kind of didn't really get much until a bit later on, and then she and Abby kind of swapped places to it. But even then, I think Shauna is probably the least developed of the three. Not a criticism against Shauna, but I think because there was so much focus on Cleo, and to a lesser extent Abby, in the earlier ones at least for Abby, then I think Shauna kind of got lost a little bit until later on, at least. Oh, side note, all 3 characters in this mini-series are queer. Abby is probably bi, because she has a boyfriend, but she's also fancies Shauna. Shauna is in love with Abby. She's officially a lesbian, and Cleo is a transsexual woman. And all 3 of them are brilliant characters. Hashtag we stand LGBT characters on this channel. Hashtag. How do you do bloody hashtag? Hashtag. How do you do? Screw it. So, thumbs up. So yeah, but SOS is a pretty good start. Hysteria, it just kind of carries on the build-up from SOS, but we've gone from the start of characters disappearing to characters being erased from time, and not just characters, historical figures like Queen Victoria are being erased from time. We also have a glimpse of Rani being involved in a battle with something at the end of this one, I think, or was it at the end of? Yeah, I think it's at the end of this one, going into Lost, and then Lost is when Cleo's brother disappears. So these first 3 episodes are basically the build-up of the series. It's a good build-up, but I think maybe 3 episodes is a tad bit too long. It is, we're taking a bit too much time. Remember, this is 10 episodes, and what did I say in the last video about every episode having to count? I think these first 3 take a bit too long to build up. I think we really needed to snap into the story a bit sooner than when we did. Episode 4, however, is when things really get kicking off. Even though it doesn't really have a huge amount to play in the overarching story, it is fun to have a Weeping Angel story tying in with Blink, as well as the recent Weeping Angel games. A game that would have come out, I think it was either earlier this year or was it the start of last year. I think it was March 2021, the Lonely Assassins game, and this kind of serves like a little bit of a sequel to that story with Larry Nightingale and the Weeping Angels and so forth. And they're still tormenting him, but it doesn't really tie in with the overall stuff from this series. It's I suppose the closest thing is one of the girls. I think it's Abby, who goes up to speak with Larry. Was it Cleo? One of them goes to speak with Larry, and then the other two try to make sure she doesn't get killed because they're worried he might be a serial killer. But they find a message from him instead, and some information about the Weeping Angels, and then they're captured by units because the unit needs their help for the whole Redacted stuff, which will take us to episode 5. But I think 4 was both my favourite, but it's also probably the least important of the series because it's just Weeping Angel stuff, but it doesn't have anything to do with Redacted. Oh well, it was still one of the most fun episodes of the series. At least, maybe it did have something to do with the reacted thing, and I can't remember, but apart from them being scared by it, I don't think they did. Interrogation now. This one is both really good and also quite nasty to listen to. This is the Rosa of this season. Except swap racism for nasty interrogation. As the main three, let's just call them the main three, are captured by units who want to help, but they go all about it by being angry interrogational brutes, and only Cleo really has any information about it, but they're not being very nice to Abby or Shauna about it. To me, this doesn't feel like the unit we've seen from the TV series. Maybe more akin to unit from their mini audio series from 2004 to 2005 with Shuri O'Neill as the main character and Nicholas Courtney's Brigadier popping in a few times. That series, I've done a review of this on Universals as well. Go check that out. Or the unit we saw in Torchwood Series 2, Episode 12, Fragments, where it was so far removed from the unit we were so used to, it felt like a completely different organisation. But we all know they would do this behind closed doors, wouldn't we? Kind of reaction. So it feels like this type of unit is being more akin to the Torchwood unit and the unit Big Finish mini-series, the mid-2000s one, rather than what we've seen in the main Doctor Who TV show or the unit audio series, a new series audio series from Big Finish that started in 2015-ish. Was it 2015? It was about then-ish. 15, 16, somewhere along 15, 16, 17. But basically, that's more akin to what they were like in the TV show, as far as I'm aware. But the older one and the Torchwood ones are quite different to what we know them in the show, in the main show. And they are quite brutal in this. Even Kate Stewart's not that very nice in this episode, and this is her only appearance. Though she does get a bit nicer across the episode, but there's still a couple of other unit soldiers who aren't that nice. So this is a bit jarring having unit act like this, even in desperate situations, especially compared to Power the Doctor, where they're like, oh, do you mind if you could help us out, please? Situation with Kate and Ace and Tegan. But here it's definitely like they have definitely done something wrong and they've been captured by this government organization. Definitely doesn't help the conspiracies of the governments doing something like this go away. It actually justifies some of their fears that the government might be doing something like this. It's still a really good episode, despite being a little bit uncomfortable in places. Episode 6, Recruits, is, well, this one's another one which is a bit of a mixture of stuff, but it's still really good. As the first 10-15 minutes of the 27 episode run, well, I say 27, it's probably more like 25 because there's a trailer for something else at the end for most of these. There's about a minute or less, but yeah, this roughly 25 to 27 minute episode The first 10 to 15 are just the main three having fun at unit with Osgood hanging out with them, and then Abby is tempted to join unit because it's part of what she always wanted to do with the investigation and exploration into the aliens. But Cleo finds stuff referring to the disappearance of her dad, and there's been a bit of drama between her and her mum about what happened to her dad, and she thinks her mum did something to him or made him leave or whatnot. But it turns out, and I kind of theorized this earlier on, it had something to do with aliens, and she does find some stuff about him. So she gets a bit upset, and then with Abby wanting to hang out at unit, to stay at unit, Shauna and Cleo get really upset, and the three part ways by the end. The final 10 minutes are the main important part of this middle chapter of the series, as it splits up the group and it moves them in other directions. Episode 7, Requiem, is when we're introduced to this character called Requiem, which, spoiler alert, turns out to be Madame Vastra, but played by a new actress, who sounds more like an angry Leela rather than Madame Vastra. Yeah, Requiem it's just another kind of their episode, as it's starting to move events into the final part of the series, as a new threat emerges, part of the redacted stuff, and Shauna and Cleo join forces with Madame Vastra whilst Abby hangs out at unit. Episode 8, Ghosts. Now, new threat is the ghosts of the people who have gone missing, and the main three and Vastra have to avoid the ghosts at all costs. Ghosts, I remember, was a bit of more of a filler episode, along with the third one, Lost. I think Lost and the Ghosts are the more fillery episodes of the series. At least Angels had something interesting going on. Ghosts kind of just took what was, I think, either implied at the end of the last episode or what's going to be more developed in the next one, and it's just a bit of a kind of a slow burn with that one, with Ghosts. Rescue's a bit more exciting. There's a bit more going on with that, and by the last episode, Salvation, the main three are back together, and they're able to find this creature in order to save it and rescue the Doctor and resolve everything at the end. I really should have listened to these episodes again so I can remember exactly what happened. Overall, despite a slow start and a couple of episodes that do feel a little fillery, or at least don't contribute a huge amount to the arc that couldn't be placed in a slightly longer episode before or after, Redacted is a really solid series for the most parts, and is a really fun one as well, and interesting. My personal favourite episodes are 4, 5, and 6, and 10. So I was rounding out to top 5, possibly 9 as well. A pretty solid finale, especially as they were building so much to it. The middle trilogy, whilst not orchestrating a huge amount to the overall story, were pretty fun episodes. The first one was also pretty good as well, as was 7, but I think 3 and 8 were both kind of fillery, which is a bit of a shame, and 2 was basically more of the same from 1. None of these episodes are bad, though. These are all really good and really enjoyable to listen to, and some pretty fun stuff. And I had a good time listening to these episodes when I heard them back in April, May, and June, and yeah, pretty good series. Possibly the strongest 13th Doctor series. Yeah, definitely the strongest 13th Doctor series. These are really great episodes, and I do recommend checking them out. It's also more positivity for the LGBT fans and LGBT actors and characters in fiction, especially as we've got those haters online who are basically anti-LGBT people in media, alongside anti-black people and anti-women. So this series feels like a massive fuck you to those bastards, and I am right behind this series on doing that, because we need more stuff like this on TV or on radio, or in this case on the internet slash app. It's a great it's not a mini audio series, but the episodes aren't very long. They're like apart from the 6th and 10th episodes, and also the introduction, They're generally on average, between 15 to 25 minutes, which is your average episode of Time Agent from 2009 to 2011, with the odd exception, as mentioned here, with the introduction just being 1 or 2, Recruits being 27, and the last one, Salvation, 31. But like I said, almost all of these have a trailer for something else, another BBC Sounds series. At the end, there's apart from like only 1 or 2 of them, like I think there's only like a few that don't have this, but almost all of them have a trailer for something. There's like a podcast or a documentary series or something. I think no other dramas. I think it is just podcast or documentary. There's trailers for those at the end. I think it's just like 1 or 2 actually. One podcast or one, which is an LGBT one, ironically. Well, not ironically, actually, that might be planned, or a mystery documentary series. It's one or the other that usually has a trailer at the end of these episodes. Maybe something else on some of them, but it's usually one of those 2. But yeah, like Time Agent from between 2009 and 2011, the majority of these episodes are about 15 to 25 minutes in length, with the occasional exception that is a bit longer. And by the way, I'm said Time Agent series 2009 to 2011. I'm speaking about the 2009 specials, Series 2, and the first 5 episodes of Series 3. The exceptions of the length of those episodes were the 4th episode of Series 2 and the first episode of Series 3, and the last episode of Series 3 aired in 2012, which would also be an exception. I suppose the last episode of Series 1 would also count as this, but I'm sticking mainly to 2009 to 11. Anyway, so that's my thoughts on Doctor Who Redacted. I might listen to this series again and do more detailed reviews, but in the meantime, you can check out my reactions to the series after I first listened to it. Back in April, May, and June. This is technically same opinions from then, but with less of a remembering less about it. So this reflection is also based on first listening opinions, but with less of a knowledge now. Maybe I should have checked it out again, but oh well, too late now. But yeah, it's still a really good series, so I do recommend checking it out, unless you are anti-LGBT, in which case, fuck off. If you are pro-LGBT, let's all have a party, because this is a great series. Also, even though Cleo does get a lot of time in the spotlight, she's still the best character in the series, and she's trans. Where's the cake? This party is just beginning. Before I wrap this video up, I just want to say a massive thank you and congratulations to everybody who worked on the Doctor Who Redacted series. Cheers. You did a brilliant job. So that's Doctor Who Redacted. Do check it out. And that's the best 13th Doctor series. Thank you so much for watching. And that comes to the end of our reflections. Apart from one more video. One more reflection video. Wrapping up my overall thoughts on this era of the 13th Doctor. And basically final opinions and thoughts and stuff in the conclusion of how successful or unsuccessful the era was. One more video, and then I'm done with this series before I get to the review of The Power of the Doctor. Right, so tune in next time for the final reflection vlog for the 13th Doctor's era, the conclusion. See you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Nicholas Payne YouTube channel. Part 2, No audios when they come around. No comics. This is no comics and no big finish but they haven't started doing those yet either. So no comics, and it's too early for big finish. So probably. Hey, they got it for the 11th and 12th Doctors pretty much a week or so after Twice Upon a Time aired. Fuck. Heck, they were allowed to go up to the end of the 12th Doctor's era a week after Twice Upon a Time aired. But heck, they had the... or just after a week. Just over a week. Or just over a week, at least. So, this... So, but yeah. Shit. The first episode, which was the disappointing of the Sea Devils. Which was the disappointment of the Sea Devils. And it is... I think it was March 2022. No, sorry. I think it was March 2021, the start with the Lonely Assassins game. I think it was... Fuck off. Oh well. This is the Rosa of this episode. Basically, still, the first, 10-15 minutes is about fuck off. Oh, interesting. Yes, I just saw that notification. Stop it. Episode 6 is another odd story, but it's still a really good one. Episode 6 is also a slightly different type of episode, but still a fun one. But sure, the final 10 episodes are the final 10 minutes, I should say, and moves them in different directions. I'm gonna hate editing these videos. Who sounds more like a Scottish Leela rather than, I think it's Scottish. Yeah, she sounds like a angry Scottish Leela. Who sounds like a and this was a pretty good episode as well. I think Ghost was the missing. With SOS just being what? Sorry. But overall, Doctor Redacted. So yeah. And I might go into more detail. I feel bad about not that. I should have. I feel like now I should have checked it out again. But, maybe later then. Fuck off. Which is your basic timeout. Especially... And she's a trans. That sounds offensive. Before I wrap this video up, I want to give a thank you to Juno Dawson for creating this series. Juno Dawson, I think... who directed it? Whoever the director was on this series. Yeah, I'll just say Juno Dawson. just one more reflection video, and then I'm done until the review is ready.